wee bit more about a psychological trauma and what it is. So it's locked in the central nervous system, so it's stored in the brain. We would have an image that represents it, such as the robber's face and a gun. So negative belief would be activated, such as I'm vulnerable, and an emotion, sadness, anger, and a feeling in the body, a localized sensation. So we see this consistently with psychological trauma. There'll be a disturbing sensory aspect, an image of some sort, sight, sound, smells, tastes, negative belief associated with it, an emotion, and a feeling in the body. Now, how the brain processes trauma, it's a bit like laundry. In fact, how we process any event, it's a bit like laundry. So, normal everyday events go through a process. They get stored away in time and space. Like taking an item of clothing, putting it in the washing machine so it can be washed, dried, ironed, and put away nice and neatly. Now, when a disturbing event occurs, this is more like an item of clothing that doesn't go through the laundry. Let's say a lad of 15. He's been wearing the same underpants for 5 days. Then he decides he's going to change them. Now, the sensible thing would be put them in the wash basket. But he doesn't. He throws them underneath his bed. Now, you can imagine the strains of bacteria that have been breeding in his undies for 5 days. So in the heat of the bedroom, underneath the bed, the bacteria continues to breed. And of course, it starts to smell. So the smell's now wafting out and it's filling the room. It's affecting the immediate environment, the then and there. If the door of the room's left open, the smell wafts out and goes in different directions. So it spreads out to affect that area. It spreads out to affect that area. And it spreads out to affect that area too. So that's very similar to those disturbing events that the brain hasn't been able to process. When they occur, it affects the then and there. And what can happen then is it becomes a reference point because we remember that's a threat and the meaning it has for us. If it's something to do with maybe I'm worthless or I'm not good enough, then that can color our perception, affect our attitude and our behavior. So if it were to occur early in life, such as the very critical parent going like this, shaking the finger, it happens often enough, and that belief gets locked in. Or if there's maybe abuse of different sorts, physical, sexual, emotional, then that can become locked in. There's something wrong with me. So as we go through life, we'll draw on what we believe about ourselves to make sense of the situation we're in. So it colors our perception, affects our attitude, and our behavior. So whenever we face a situation, we draw on what we believe about ourselves, affects how we're seeing it, affects our attitude, and then our behavior. So it can spread out to affect that area of our life. It can spread out to affect that area of our life, and it can spread out to affect that area of our life too. So if, let's say, we're in a situation where we learn, maybe in early life, there's something wrong with me. So it might have been frequent criticisms from a parent. So I'm defective in some way, or I'm not good enough. And then we later face a situation in the workplace where maybe there's criticism being leveled perhaps unfairly, or excessive criticism without any, well, you did this right. So let's say we've got a very bullying boss who is now being critical of the person perhaps in front of others. And then the person's now tapping into what they already believe about themselves. So it's coloring their perception, affecting their attitude, and it's affecting their behavior too. Another situation might be somebody witnesses a colleague getting injured. And as a result of that, then starts to believe, I'm vulnerable. Maybe a colleague's been killed, and as a result of it, I'm vulnerable. So now this is coloring their perception of situations in the workplace. In fact, the workplace itself could be something that's coloring their perception of that, and because of that, I'm now avoidant of going there because the workplace is a threat to me. So as a result of that, it's going to color the perception, affect their attitude, and then their behavior. So we can think of these memories being stored in what's called a memory network. So let's say a memory network looks like a hand. So the fingers in the memory network are associated with each other, and they link together to form this memory. So the sort of things that are stored in the channels there would be sensory aspects of the experience, such as the sights, the sounds, the smells, and the tastes. Another would be thoughts we had at the time of the event, the emotions, the sensations, physical sensations, and then there's a belief about ourselves that's created by that. That's also stored in another channel. So this belief then is the summary, our verbal summary of what's stored there that represents that memory, the meaning it has for us. Now, Jerry Kelly did the talk at the very start, and he mentioned about an iceberg. And we have awareness up here, which is at the very top, which is what we're aware of in the room. Now, if you're aware just now of the sensation of the floor beneath your foot, raise your hand. Okay, so all the hands are up. So if you were noticing the sensation of the floor beneath your foot before I asked the question, raise your hand. So 3, 4, 5 people maybe. But so why was that? Well, I drew your attention to it because it was outside your conscious awareness. Once I drew your attention to it, it came into your awareness at that point. So we have these two different levels. You can see the iceberg here, about 90% of it below the surface. And although we can't see it, it's still there. So what happens then, all our memories are stored outside our conscious awareness. We're not necessarily attending to them at that particular moment. But we can access it in different ways. So we have our conscious awareness. Below the surface, we have the unconscious memory store. So we can connect from where the information is, from present now to where the information is stored, and bring it back up into the present. Now, an example of that. At the very start, I'd asked the question which to see could I get the audience participation. So you've been very good up to now, but this next part is crucial to audience participation. So when I ask the question, will you answer it for me? Yes or no? Here we go. So I'm going to say 2 words, and I'd like you to say the first word, first thing comes into your mind. So you ready? Yeah. Here we go. Beans means? Have a break, have a? Now, if you sat down to learn beans means Heinz or have a break, have a Kit Kat, raise your hand. Now, be honest, did anybody sit down to learn it? Nobody did, but the information's there. So it was stored in the unconscious memory store. And by me saying beans means, connects to where the information is stored. What's stored there pops up into the present. Grand for beans and everything, but if you think about it, I said these experiences, once they're stored, the colour, our perception, affect our attitude and our behaviour. Well, whenever you go to Tesco and you have in your shopping list baked beans, go down the aisle, see all these different brands, and there's Tesco's own brand, a lot cheaper. There's maybe Cross and Blackwell's, they're on offer too. And there's Heinz beans, 4p a tin dearer. Now, I'm a psychologist. I know about these things. What did I buy? The Heinz beans. Telling myself, Michael, you know what you're doing to you, but they taste better. Convincing myself. So it colours my perception, affects my attitude and my behaviour. So it's fine for buying baked beans, but what does it mean about psychological trauma? Well, let's say there's a girl walking along who has been raped at some time in the past, and the rapist smelled of sweat. And she's walking along the street. She's now got her life back together to the extent she's now going out and building her confidence. Walking along, this builder character going past, not employed by Seddon, of course, but this chap who didn't he got a bit sweaty the day before, didn't take time to shower that night, went straight to work the next day. By now he's humming. Let's be honest. So he's walking past, having finished his day's work. She's walking along, next thing, whiff of sweat, and she freezes. Now, this wasn't the person who raped her, but the smell of sweat connects to where the information is stored. The memory of the rape gets activated, and it feeds up into the present to cause her that disturbance. In the workplace, let's say somebody who has witnessed a colleague being trapped in a machine, and were helpless as the person lost their arm and received maybe severe burns. So then what happens is that go back into the workplace or even to go to work in that machine or that area, connects to where the information is stored. The memory of what they witnessed feeds up into the present and causes that disturbance. Similarly, the member of the workforce who has been bullied and the thought of going back into work again then connects to where the information is stored, brings the memory of the bullying up into the present and feel that unease. Now, maybe the bully has now been moved on, but all my colleagues witnessed this. How can I go in and face them? So it's that fear of going back in. So to think about our memory network there, instead of icebergs, what we have is that we're connected where the information is stored below the surface. And what's stored in these channels, the sights, the sounds, the smells, the tastes, thoughts, emotions, sensations, and beliefs, feed up into the present and cause that disturbance for us.